Parents took a second mortgage for my brother. Now they want me to give up my wedding for him. Hey Reddit, my brother's the golden child. I'm the wallet. I paid to keep my parents' house standing. But when my wedding came up, they tried to pull the dumbest stunt yet. Let me back up and explain. I'm Lizette, 27, female. I'm engaged. My wedding is in April, and I should be stressing about flowers or playlists. Instead, I'm dealing with my family, mainly my older brother, Kyle, 30 male, my mom, and my grandma. They've spent my entire life acting like Kyle's the sun, and the rest of us are supposed to orbit around him. The funny part, I wasn't the only one who saw it. My sister Emily, 29, female, grew up in the same house, and she's been calling out the favoritism for as long as I can remember. The difference is they never listened to her either. When I turned 8, I got a board game for my birthday. Kyle was 11, and for his birthday that same year, he got a brand new mountain bike. I remember asking Mom why his present was way bigger than mine. Her response, "He's older, Lizette. He has more responsibilities. He deserves it." Emily, who was 10 at the time, cut in, "That doesn't even make sense. What responsibility comes with riding a bike?" Grandma immediately snapped, "Don't talk back, young lady. Your brother is special." That was her favorite line. Anytime Kyle broke something, anytime he failed at something, anytime Emily or I asked a question, it always came back to "he's special. You don't understand." A year later, I saved up allowance for months to buy an RC car. I was so proud of it. Kyle decided it would be hilarious to launch it off the porch steps. It shattered on impact. I cried, of course, and went to Mom. She sighed and said, "You should have shared nicer with your brother." Emily was right there. Shared nicer? He destroyed it, Mom. He should replace it. Grandma's face twisted like Emily had said the worst thing in the world. "How dare you talk about your brother that way?" He didn't mean it. So Kyle walked off. No punishment, no consequences. I lost my car. Emily got scolded. And life moved on like it always did. Kyle first, everyone else last. By the time we hit our teens, the pattern was set in stone. Kyle came home with a report card full of B's and C's. Mom declared it a victory, said she was proud of him for trying hard, and took us all out for dinner. A few weeks later, I brought home straight A's. Emily did too. We got a quick good job. That's expected. That was it. Emily muttered under her breath that night, "So, Kyle gets steak for being average, and we get a pat on the head for working our asses off." I laughed, but there was no point saying it louder. Mom and Grandma never cared to hear it. Then came the car situation. When I turned 16, I was allowed to use the family car sometimes, but Kyle always got priority. One weekend, he dented the bumper, pulling out of a parking lot. He tossed the keys on the counter and went upstairs like nothing happened. The next morning, Mom told me I needed to stop being so mouthy and set a better example. Emily stood up for me. He dented the car. "Mom, why are you blaming Lizette?" Mom shot her down. "You don't know what you're talking about. Your brother is under pressure." That phrase, "under pressure," was just another excuse on the list. When Kyle was supposed to be the first in our family to graduate from a big university, my parents took out a second mortgage to pay for his tuition and some startup idea he bragged about. 2 years later, he dropped out. The startup never happened. The money gone. I asked what the plan was now. Grandma jumped in immediately. "Don't kick him while he's down. He's still figuring things out." Emily rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. "You just flushed a house worth of money down the toilet and you're telling Lizette not to be upset?" Unreal. Mom told her to mind her tone. Meanwhile, Kyle stayed at home, slept in, and came up with a new career plan every few months that never went anywhere. When I finished school and landed a decent job, Mom and Dad were on the edge of losing the house. That second mortgage was crushing them. I stepped in. I started sending them $900 a month to help keep the place afloat. Not because I had to, but because I didn't want to see my parents homeless. Emily told me not to do it. She said, "You're just going to enable them the same way they enabled Kyle." She wasn't wrong, but at the time, I felt like I was doing the right thing. The gratitude never came. Some months I didn't even get a thank you. I wasn't added to the deed. I didn't get a promise that the money would come back to me someday. I was just the dependable one, the reliable wallet. Meanwhile, Kyle kept living there rent-free most months. Aside from the occasional $300 he'd toss them when he felt like it, Grandma still called him her special boy. Mom kept making excuses. Dad hid behind his newspaper. Emily stayed out of the house more and more as she got older. She told me once, the only way to survive this family is to stop expecting them to change. She was right, but I wasn't ready to admit it back then. About 6 weeks before the wedding, Mom texted me, "Come over, we need to talk, it's important." No details, no context. With my family, important usually meant something for Kyle. When I pulled up, Emily's car was already there. That was a surprise. If Mom wanted her here too, it wasn't going to be a normal conversation. I walked in and the scene looked staged. The TV was muted, which almost never happens in that house. Dad sat in his recliner, flipping through the same envelope for 5 minutes. Grandma sat on the couch like she owned the place, her cane leaning against her leg, and Kyle was sprawled in the middle like it was his throne. Mom stood with her arms crossed, clearly waiting for me. Emily sat on the far chair, arms folded, face tight. She gave me a look like, "Just wait until you hear this crap." "Sit down, Lizette," Mom said. Her voice had that fake sweetness she always used when she was about to say something awful. I sat, glanced at Emily, and braced myself. Mom started with, "You know how much we want this wedding to be special." I cut her off. "For me and Jack, right? Just making sure." Kyle smirked like he knew a secret. Grandma leaned forward, smiling. That smug smile she's perfected over 70 years. Mom pushed on. "Since it's such a beautiful event, maybe it could be about more than one couple. Maybe it could also be a chance for your brother to—" Grandma jumped in. "Family should share joy. That's only right." Kyle finally said it. "I want to propose to Rachel at your wedding during the reception speeches. Imagine how perfect it'll be. Everyone clapping, everyone watching." I laughed. Not a happy laugh, just one of those sharp, short ones. "Right. Should I hand you my dress too? Or just step aside so you can marry her on the spot?" Kyle's grin dropped. Mom frowned. Grandma shook her head at me like I was the unreasonable one. Mom said, "Don't be like that. It's just one moment. You'll still have your vows, your dances." Kyle just wants to celebrate love too. Emily finally spoke. "Mom, do you hear yourself? Lizette's paying for this wedding. She's the bride, and you're seriously asking her to let Kyle hijack it?" "Hijack?" Grandma snapped. "What a horrible word. He only wants to be part of the joy," Emily shot back. "He can propose literally anywhere else. Why does it have to be Lizette's wedding?" "Because it's the perfect setting," Kyle said, looking at her like she was dumb. "I don't have the money for some big event. This way I can make it special for Rachel, too." I leaned forward. "No, it's not happening. Not in the ceremony. Not at the reception. Not in the parking lot. Nowhere." Mom's voice got sharper. "Why do you always make things difficult? Kyle is scared Rachel might leave. This could save their relationship." Emily scoffed. "If your relationship depends on stealing someone else's wedding, it's already dead." Grandma turned on her. "Don't you dare talk like that about your brother. He's sensitive. You've always been too harsh, Emily." Emily folded her arms tighter. "No, I've just always been honest. You don't like honesty when it's not about praising Kyle," I added. "Exactly. And by the way, generous? You want generous? I've been sending you $900 every month to keep this house standing." $900. While he lives here rent-free and you want to call me selfish because I won't let him turn my wedding into a sideshow. The room went quiet for a second. Dad shifted in his chair but didn't look up from his envelopes. Kyle raised his voice. "So what? You're just cutting me out completely over 1 minute?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Kyle, you don't need my wedding to make yourself look like a fool. You've been doing that just fine on your own." Grandma gasped like I'd slapped her. "How dare you talk that way in front of your mother and grandmother?" Emily said flatly. "Maybe she wouldn't talk that way if you didn't excuse everything Kyle does," Mom snapped at her. "Don't start, Emily. You're supposed to support your brother." Emily laughed. "Support him? He's 30 years old and still acts like he's 12. Maybe if you stopped babying him, he wouldn't need to crash other people's weddings to feel important." Kyle's face went red. "You're just jealous I get more attention than you ever did." Emily didn't even flinch. "If this is what attention looks like, you can keep it." I stood up. "This conversation is over. I'm not funding your mortgage while you all try to hand my wedding to him. The $900 stops now." Figure it out. Mom looked shocked. You can't do that. We need your help. I shrugged. Then maybe you should have thought twice before siding with Kyle's circus act. Grandma's eyes narrowed. You'll regret this, Lizette. Family comes first. Yeah, I said, heading for the door. And it's time I put my future family first. Jack and me. The rest of you can live with your choices. As I left, Emily got up too. She said over her shoulder, For once, I actually agree with Lizette 100%. You should all be embarrassed. The silence in that room was louder than any yelling. When I pulled into my driveway that night, Kyle's car rolled up right behind me. He didn't even give me time to get inside before he was out of the car, slamming the door, storming across the lawn like he was the one who'd been wronged. I didn't say a word at first. I unlocked my front door, stepped inside, and left it open. He followed me in without asking, which is pretty much how he does everything. No permission needed, because in his head, the world is already his. The second the door shut, he started yelling, You ruined everything. Do you even realize what you've done? Rachel was expecting something big, and now I've got nothing. I kicked off my shoes and walked into the kitchen like it was just another Tuesday. You could always propose at Taco Bell, I said. They've got a $1 menu. Fits your budget. That set him off. He slammed his hands on my counter. You think this is funny? You embarrassed me in front of Mom and Grandma. You turned them against me. I grabbed a glass of water and leaned against the fridge. No, Kyle. You embarrassed yourself. And Mom and Grandma, they didn't turn. They've always been on your side. The difference is, I finally stopped playing along. He jabbed a finger at me. You're financially blackmailing them, cutting off the money just to get your way. That's low, even for you. I almost laughed. Blackmail? That would mean I'm threatening to expose something. I'm just stopping payments, like a normal person does when they get tired of being used. He paced like a caged animal. Do you know what's going to happen now? Mom and Dad can't afford the mortgage without you. You're going to make them lose the house, all because you can't share a stupid spotlight for 1 minute. I set the glass down and looked him dead in the eye. You mean the house they almost lost because of you? The house they took a second mortgage on so you could play entrepreneur for 2 years before dropping out. That house? Yeah, not my problem anymore. He went quiet for half a second. Then his voice went up again. Rachel is going to leave me, Lizette. You don't get it. This was my last chance to prove myself. Now she's going to think I'm a loser. I tilted my head. Kyle, if she's leaving, it's not because you didn't hijack my wedding. It's because you're 30 years old, still living at home, and your entire career plan is waiting for other people to hand you opportunities. A ring won't fix pathetic. His face went red. You're jealous. You've always been jealous because Mom and Grandma love me more. Admit it. That actually made me laugh. Jealous of what? Watching you blow thousands of dollars and end up living in your childhood bedroom at 30? Yeah, that's every little sister's dream. He slammed his fist on the counter again. You think you're better than me just because you got lucky with your job? No, Kyle, I said calmly. I think I'm better than you because I actually work. Because when I screw up, I fix it myself instead of crying to Mom and Grandma until someone bails me out. He shook his head like he couldn't believe me. You're unbelievable. You've always had it easy. You don't know what it's like to have expectations on you. That one almost made me choke. Expectations? Are you serious? Your expectations were what? Passing your classes, showing up once in a while, maybe not wrecking the car. Meanwhile, I was expected to cover for you, take the blame for you, and then send $900 a month to clean up after you. Don't talk to me about expectations. He pointed at me again. If you don't let me do this, I'll show up anyway. I'll grab the mic and I'll propose in front of everyone. You won't be able to stop me. I didn't even flinch. You try it, Kyle, and I'll have you tossed out so fast you won't even make it to, will you marry me? He sneered. You wouldn't dare. I dare, I said, leaning back on the counter. And Jack's fully on board. You try it, you're out. No second chances. He stared at me like he couldn't believe I'd actually thought ahead. You're pathetic, using muscle to solve your problems. Rachel is going to hate you for this. No, she's going to hate you, I said flatly, because you're trying to guilt trip your little sister into sacrificing the biggest day of her life so you can band-aid a failing relationship. He didn't know what to say for once. He just stood there, fists clenching and unclenching, breathing heavy. Finally, he muttered, You'll regret this. You'll regret cutting me out. I walked to the door, opened it, and gestured. Out. My house, my rules. He stomped past me, muttering under his breath about how ungrateful I was, how I owed him, how the family would never forgive me. I shut the door behind him and locked it. Through the window, I watched him sit in his car, pounding the steering wheel before peeling off down the street. I didn't feel relief. I just felt tired, because I knew one thing for sure. If he was this angry already, he wasn't done. And neither were Mom and Grandma. The morning after Kyle barged into my house, my phone started buzzing before I'd even finished brushing my teeth. It was Mom. I let it ring out. She called again, then Grandma, then Mom again. I finally picked up on the third round just to get it over with. "Lizette," Mom started, her voice already sharp. "What on earth were you thinking? You made your grandmother cry last night. Do you even care what this is doing to her?" I sat down at the table, put her on speaker, and rubbed my forehead. "Mom, Kyle tried to hijack my wedding. He showed up at my house screaming at me, and you're worried about Grandma crying?" "She's your grandmother," Mom snapped. "You can't talk to her the way you do. She's hurt." "She's hurt because she wanted me to hand over my wedding like a party favor," I said. "That's not my problem." Her voice dropped into that guilt-trip tone she's perfected. "Family should be about sacrifice. You've always been so cold about these things. Kyle just wants a moment. You don't lose anything by letting him have it." I laughed once. "Not lose anything, Mom? I lose the one day that's supposed to be about me and Jack. I lose respect. I lose patience. I lose $900 a month while I'm at it." Her voice spiked. "There it is again. You keep throwing the money in our faces. You're weaponizing it." I leaned back. "No, I'm stopping it. That's not a weapon. It's me, refusing to keep paying for Kyle's lifestyle." She huffed. "You'll regret this. When we lose the house, it'll be on your conscience." That was it for me. "No, Mom. It'll be on Kyle's. You took out a second mortgage for him, not me. You kept bailing him out. You made your choice. I'm making mine." She hung up on me. Not long after, Grandma's name popped up. "Against my better judgment," I answered. Her voice was watery and weak. "Lizette, I don't understand why you're being so cruel. Your brother is sensitive. He just wanted a chance to be happy. Why can't you let him?" "Because it's my wedding, Grandma, not his." "You're young. You'll have other days. Kyle might not." That one stunned me. "So I'm supposed to ruin mine because maybe he can't get his life together? That's insane." She kept going. "You've always been difficult. Kyle was the good boy. You were stubborn, always questioning, always making trouble." I felt my jaw clench. "Are you really rewriting history now? Kyle wrecked the car, not me. Kyle dropped out, not me. Kyle's 30 and still mooching, not me. And you're still sitting here calling him the good one." Her voice sharpened. "Watch your tongue, Lizette. I've done nothing but love you." That was my breaking point. "Love? You told Jack before we were even engaged that I was trouble and he should keep his eyes open. Don't deny it. He told me everything." There was silence on the line. Then she sputtered, "That's not how I meant it." "No," I cut her off. "That's exactly how you meant it. And you know what? That was the last straw. You don't get to lecture me about family while you've spent my whole life undermining me and praising Kyle for breathing." She started crying again, louder this time, calling me ungrateful. I didn't wait for more. I hung up. Jack had been listening from the kitchen. He walked over, put his hand on my shoulder, and said, "Good. About time you stopped letting her run your life." I exhaled hard. I shouldn't have let her get under my skin, but I'm done. That's it. No more. Later that evening, Emily texted me, "Mom's blowing up my phone too. Guess Kyle ran to her again." I called her back, and she answered with a sigh. "You were right yesterday. They're relentless. But I don't blame you for losing it on Grandma. She's been feeding Kyle lies for years." "I know," I said. "Jack told me some of the crap Grandma said behind my back. That pushed me over." Emily's voice hardened. "Then let her cry. She made her choice a long time ago. She doesn't get to demand your wedding on top of it." "Thanks," I said. "It's good to know I'm not crazy." "You're not," she replied. "Honestly, if they keep pushing, I'm out too. I'm done letting them use us." We hung up, and for the first time that week, I didn't feel completely outnumbered. The next day, Jack and I sat down with the venue coordinator. We gave them a printed rule sheet. No surprise announcements, no unplanned speeches, no exceptions. We also told them we'd hired security specifically to enforce it. Is that really necessary? The coordinator asked. Yes, Jack said firmly before I could. It's very necessary. That night, we sent the same rule sheet to immediate family. Emily texted back a thumbs up. Dad didn't reply. Mom's response was, "We'll see." Grandma didn't even bother with words. She just sent a thumbs down emoji. I showed it to Jack and shook my head. This isn't over. He kissed my cheek and said, "Then we'll be ready when they try again." The wedding day came faster than I thought it would. Jack and I had picked an outdoor venue with a small pond, simple decorations, and enough space for family without it feeling like a circus. Or at least that was the hope. Guests started arriving around noon. People from Jack's side showed up on time, dressed sharp, smiling, polite. My side, well, let's just say Grandma wore a dress that looked like it belonged at a royal coronation. And Kyle showed up in a suit that was clearly borrowed and 2 sizes too big. Emily gave me a look as soon as she saw them. It said everything. Get ready. The ceremony itself went off without a hitch. I was nervous, but the second Jack walked down the aisle toward me, I forgot about the background noise. For 20 minutes, it was perfect. The vows, the rings, the kiss. Everything landed the way it was supposed to. It wasn't until the reception started that the tension began to creep back in. The rule sheet was taped behind the bar just in case. Marcus, Jack's best man, started the speeches. He was funny without going overboard. Then my maid of honor gave hers, sweet and heartfelt. We were smiling, relaxed. That's when I saw Kyle stand up. He was at the far end of the room, Rachel beside him, looking pale. Grandma was whispering in his ear as he made his way toward the microphone. I stepped forward before he got there. "Kyle, sit down." He ignored me. "I just need a minute, just 1 minute." The coordinator tried to stop him, but Grandma waved her cane like she was Moses parting the Red Sea. "Let him speak," she barked. Kyle grabbed the mic. "Everyone, I have something important to say." The room went dead silent. All eyes turned to him. I could feel Jack tense beside me. So, I cut him off loud enough for everyone to hear. I said, "Quick PSA, folks. This isn't open mic night. If you didn't pay for the venue, the food, or the rings, sit down." A ripple of laughter ran through the crowd. Kyle's face turned red, but he held the mic tighter. "No, listen. This is important. Rachel, I love you." And Rachel stood up so fast her chair screeched. "Kyle, stop." He froze. Her voice shook, but she kept going. "I told you I didn't want this. I told you not to make a scene, and you still did it." The guests started whispering. Kyle's eyes darted around like he could still salvage it. "Babe, just let me finish." "No," Rachel said louder this time. "I've told you for weeks I didn't want a public proposal, especially not at someone else's wedding. The answer is no. I'm done." The silence was heavier than the ceremony had been. People gasped. A couple of Jack's cousins actually clapped, and Grandma looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. Kyle's face crumpled. He turned toward me like somehow this was my fault. You ruined this." I shook my head. "No, Kyle, you ruined it when you tried to steal a wedding you weren't invited to headline. Don't blame me, because she saw through you." More whispers, a few chuckles. Kyle's humiliation was spreading through the room like wildfire. He dropped the mic, the thud echoing through the speakers. He looked like he might swing at me, but before he could take a step, security moved in. 2 guys in suits grabbed him gently but firmly by the arms. "You can't do this," he yelled as they pulled him back. "I'm family." "Exactly," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "And family should know better." That line got actual applause. Guests clapped, laughed, some even cheered. Jack squeezed my hand, grinning for the first time since Kyle stood up. Security escorted him out, and the coordinator calmly picked the mic off the floor. "All right, folks," she said with a professional smile. "Let's get back to celebrating Lizette and Jack." The crowd broke into cheers. The tension broke like a dam. But of course, Grandma wasn't done. She stood up, cane in hand, voice sharp as glass. "You selfish little brat. You humiliated your brother. You're a disgrace." I turned toward her, smiled, and said, "Security, please help my grandmother find her Uber." The laughter that followed was louder than the applause had been. Even people from my side, who usually kept their mouths shut, were shaking their heads and chuckling. Grandma sputtered, called me ungrateful, and stormed out after Kyle. The rest of the reception, smooth. We danced, we ate, Marcus made fun of my dance moves, and Jack finally relaxed. Every time someone raised a glass, they toasted us. Not Kyle, not Grandma, us. At one point, Emily leaned over and whispered, "That was the best shutdown I've ever seen, worth every penny you spent on security." I laughed. I should have charged tickets. The night ended the way it should have. Jack and I surrounded by friends, and the part of my family that actually cared. Kyle was gone. Grandma was fuming somewhere else. And for the first time in months, I felt like the day belonged to us again. Still, as Jack and I left the venue, I knew it wasn't the end. Not with my family. Mom hadn't made her move yet. And if there was one thing I'd learned growing up, it's that Mom never stays quiet for long. The morning after the wedding, my phone lit up before breakfast. Missed calls, voicemails, and a text from Mom about the mortgage. But by noon, Emily texted, "Mom's going ballistic. You better call before she drives over to your house." I called back and kept it short. She launched straight into the same speech I'd heard for years. "We're behind. The house is at risk. Be generous." I told her calmly this time that my help ended when they tried to hand my wedding to Kyle, and that the only adult who lives in their house rent-free most months is the one who should start paying. She went icy and hung up. I barely had time to put my phone down before it buzzed again. This time it was a group text. Grandma had sent a long message to the entire family. "I cannot believe what Lizette did to poor Kyle yesterday. She embarrassed him in front of Rachel and all those people. She's turned her back on her parents who gave her everything. Shameful behavior. I don't understand why she is like this." Cousins started chiming in. A few sent the usual "sorry, Grandma" responses, but then something unexpected happened. Two of my cousins replied, "Honestly, Kyle was out of line. Lizette and Jack deserve their day." Another wrote, "Grandma, maybe this is between them. Let it go." That shut Grandma up for a few hours. Around dinner time, I got a text from Kyle. "You embarrass me. I'll never forgive you." I typed back, "You embarrassed yourself. I warned you 100 times. Then I blocked his number. That night, Dad called me. First time in weeks he'd actually called me on his own. His voice was quiet, almost hesitant. "Lizette, I wanted to say you're right." I paused. "Right about what?" He sighed. "About Kyle. About how we raised him. We should have pushed him harder. Should have made him pay rent years ago. Shouldn't have let your mother and Grandma protect him from everything." It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from him. I didn't know what to say, so I just told him, "Thanks." Meanwhile, Jack and I sat down that night with a spreadsheet. For the first time in years, we budgeted without factoring in that $900 drain. The money was going into savings toward a down payment for our own house someday. Jack looked at me and said, "Feels good, doesn't it?" And it did. The next week, things got worse for Kyle. My parents, desperate to make the mortgage, told him he had to start contributing. Not just the $300 rent he tossed them when he felt like it, but real money, utilities, food, the works. Kyle lost it. He told them it was unfair, that he needed time to get on his feet. Dad told him he'd had a decade. Mom told him if he didn't like it, he could leave. Emily filled me in over the phone. "He's been sulking in his room for days. Won't talk to anyone except Grandma. He keeps saying you turned everyone against him." "Good," I said. "Maybe he'll finally realize the world doesn't revolve around him." Emily laughed bitterly. "Don't hold your breath." A few days later, Grandma tried one more stunt. She organized a family dinner at her house, invited everyone, and wrote, "We need to heal these wounds. Lizette owes Kyle an apology." Emily called me right away. "Don't even think about going." "Don't worry," I said. "I wouldn't waste gas on that." Instead, I sent one message to the group chat. There will be no apology. Kyle tried to steal my wedding, and Grandma supported it. If you can't respect boundaries, don't expect me to show up. Silence, not a single reply. The next morning, Mom sent me a short text. "You're destroying this family." I stared at it for a while before typing back, "No, Mom. Kyle and Grandma did that a long time ago. I'm just done pretending otherwise." 2 weeks after the wedding, I drove past my parents' house on my way to grab some things from Emily. The front yard looked different. For the first time in years, there was a room for rent sign stuck in the grass. Emily filled me in later. They finally did it. Dad listed the spare room. Mom's not happy, but they don't have a choice. How's Kyle taking it? I asked. She snorted. Like a toddler. He keeps saying it's his house too, and he deserves the space. Dad told him flat out, it's our house. You either pay rent or leave. That shocked me more than anything. Dad actually said it. Within 2 weeks, my parents had a tenant. A quiet college kid moved in, paying full rent and utilities. Kyle complained nonstop about privacy, about strangers in his home. Mom finally told him, that stranger is helping us pay the mortgage. You're not. Emily texted me a play-by-play of his meltdown. I can't lie, it was satisfying. Meanwhile, Grandma tried her last move. One Saturday, she showed up unannounced at my place. She knocked on the door for 5 minutes, then started yelling through the screen. Lizette, open this door right now. You can't avoid me forever. Jack was in the living room. He looked at me and shook his head. I walked over, didn't open the door, and said loud enough for her to hear, Grandma, you need to leave. You're not welcome here. And she yelled back, You broke my heart. You abandoned your brother. You're a bad granddaughter. I didn't yell. I just said, You chose Kyle. Live with it. Then I closed the blinds. She left a handwritten note in the mailbox saying I'd regret this when she was gone. I threw it straight in the trash. That same night, Jack printed a wedding photo of us laughing on the dance floor. No Kyle, no Grandma in the background. Just us. He framed it and hung it on the wall. This is what matters, he said. And he was right. A few days later, Dad called again. His voice was quieter than usual. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you, Lizette. You did what I never could. You stood up to them. For once, I didn't feel the need to argue. I just said, Thanks, Dad. Mom stayed distant. She sent the occasional cold text. Short lines like, Hope you're happy, or We're struggling because of you. I stopped replying. Emily, on the other hand, got bolder. She stopped going to Grandma's dinners, stopped answering Kyle's late-night rants, and told Mom directly, I'm done with this favoritism. If you can't respect Lizette, you lose me too. That shook Mom more than anything I said. Suddenly, she wasn't just losing her difficult daughter, she was losing her other daughter too. Kyle, meanwhile, kept spiraling. When the new tenant's rent covered part of the mortgage, Dad told him he had to chip in more for utilities. Kyle exploded again. This isn't fair. You're ganging up on me. Lizette poisoned you against me. No one bought it, not even Mom this time. Eventually, he started disappearing for days, crashing at Grandma's when she'd let him, but even she seemed tired of him. Emily told me one night, Grandma's complaining that Kyle eats everything in her fridge and never helps with chores. Guess he's her problem now. For once, I didn't feel guilty. Not a bit. A week later, I sent one last group message to the family. Jack and I are building our life. No more surprise announcements, no more guilt trips. If you want to be part of it, be normal. If not, that's fine too. Emily texted me privately right after. Best thing you could have said. No one else replied. That weekend, Jack and I sat on the couch looking at that framed wedding photo. He leaned his head on my shoulder and said, You know, we might have lost some family, but we gained peace. I nodded, and that's worth more than $900 a month. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the backup wallet, the afterthought, the one told to be generous. I was just me, fiancé to Jack, sister to Emily, daughter to parents who were finally waking up. Kyle could sulk, Grandma could stew, Mom could stay mad. None of it mattered anymore because I'd drawn my line, and for once, I wasn't stepping back. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube, this video deserves to blow up. That was months ago. Since then, life has settled in a way I didn't think was possible. Jack and I finally started house hunting. Every weekend, we drive around different neighborhoods, arguing playfully about backyards versus kitchens, fixer-uppers versus new builds. It feels normal. It feels ours. Emily comes with us sometimes, and we end up laughing in the middle of empty living rooms about how much better this is than sitting through another one of Mom's family dinners. Emily jokes that she's our unofficial realtor, though really, she just likes being away from the old house. As for Kyle, word trickles in through Emily or Dad. He drifts between jobs that last a few weeks, then quits. He blames stress, or managers who don't get him. He's living partly at Grandma's now, partly with a buddy from high school who still lets him crash on the couch. Rachel? She blocked him after the wedding fiasco. No second chances. Grandma still sends me guilt-soaked voicemails once in a while. Family is all you have, Lizette. Don't turn your back on us. I don't respond anymore. I save the messages for a week, then delete them. Jack says ignoring her is the healthiest boundary I've ever set. He's probably right. Mom, well, she's quieter than she's ever been. Sometimes she texts Emily instead of me, like she's hoping Emily will pass along whatever message she's too stubborn to send directly. Emily usually ignores her too. Dad calls every now and then, but our conversations are short. He tells me about work, the weather, sometimes about the tenant helping with bills. Once or twice, he's apologized again in his own roundabout way. I don't push him. It's enough that he's trying. Jack and I celebrated 3 months of marriage with a cheap bottle of wine on our apartment balcony. No drama, no shouting, no accusations. Just us, talking about the future. I told him I felt like I'd finally cut the last strings tying me to a circus I never asked to perform in. He raised his glass and said, "To peace." I raised mine back. Emily texted me a photo a few days later. Grandma's living room. Kyle passed out on the couch in the middle of the afternoon, empty chip bags scattered on the floor. Emily's caption, "Special boy in his natural habitat." I laughed so hard Jack came running to see what was so funny. For once, the joke wasn't on me. And for the first time in years, I felt like my story wasn't about my brother or my mother or my grandmother's endless excuses. It was about me, about Jack, about Emily, about the life we were finally building without dragging old chains behind us. Maybe my family never changes. Maybe Kyle stays Kyle forever. But I've changed. I've stopped apologizing for wanting a life that's mine. And honestly, that's the happiest ending I could have asked for.